There's a new Speedway podcast in town for the first time. Welcome to 360 Speedway. The wait is over. Episode 1 has landed. Thank you very much for taking an interest and tuning in. I'm Derek Smith, an unknown quantity, I would suggest, to the majority of you. As you can tell by my West Country accent, west of Scotland that is, I am a lifelong Glasgow Tigers fan and currently do Centre Green there too. 360 Speedway is my own brainchild. It's only taken me about 3 years to actually realise and make this happen. I just wanted a fun way to bring you and I together along with some real Speedway experts and talk about the sport that we all know and love. Welcome for the first time to the Oval Office, otherwise known as 360 Speedway HQ, where week on week I hope you'll join me to discuss and debate all the talking points that you guys want us to cover on each episode. Now it has to be said that 360 Speedway wouldn't remotely be as interesting if I was the only face that you guys had to put up with. So for the first time, let me introduce some well-known faces, guys who have literally been there, done it, and got the bruising to show for it. I call them our handlebar heroes. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to guest number 1. So joining me in this episode 1, first up, a man of many clubs. A man of many clubs, a loyal servant to all of them, and he actually holds the world record for the number of attempts to stage his farewell meeting. It can only be one person. Let me say hello and welcome to Stuart Robson. Hello, Stuart.
Hi, Derek. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you for joining us on this. It's a big night, a big occasion for 360 Speedway, Stuart. You are the first guest ever to be introduced to the speedsters, the 360 speedsters out there. You'll have done lots of interviews over your career, Stuart. Do you feel rusty at all? You're looking forward to talking Speedway once again?
Yes, rusty. Yeah, probably a bit rusty to be fair, because I've been out of the sport for a few years now, and I do still follow it, and I would love to get back involved again somehow. But so yes, this is kind of my sort of first sort of step back towards it, I guess, really.
Excellent. Look forward to your company, Stuart. Thank you very much. Okay, next up, without further ado, a fellow Scotsman to play the Ali McCoist role in the 360 Speedway team, a fan's favourite at every club that he raced for. I'm old enough to have actually watched him race. In fact, I'm old enough to remember him as a rugged teenager, 16 years of age. And of course, he had a special place, I think, in the hearts and minds of Wolverhampton fans during a golden era for Wolverhampton Speedway. Let's welcome to 360 Speedway for the first time, Big Mac, Stuart McDonald. Welcome to you, sir.
Welcome to you too. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Stuart. I've got to say, of all the riders that I've warmed up or approached to consider coming and doing this, you were the most excited, I think, of all. My phone has literally rang every couple of days for the last few weeks with Stuart McDonald talking about podcasting and investing in lots of equipment. Stuart McDonald.
Well, I have been there, but you know what? It was an honour to be asked. I mean, Speedway obviously has been the number one sport in my life ever since I was, I think, that high, you know. And to be asked to do this was just what a great buzz, you know. To give a bit back for the fans, just to get involved again, and you know, spent the last I don't know how many minutes speaking to the other guys. It's been a great buzz, and to let's say to do this, I'm looking forward to the next few months with the 360 Speedway. It's going to be exciting, without doubt.
Good lad, Stuart. Good to have you as part of it. Okay, let's move on to guest number 3 tonight, and I've got to make a special mention to this man because he's climbed out of his sick bed to do 360 Speedway episode number 1 tonight. He's feeling pretty much under the weather. But nonetheless, what a trooper, another man of many clubs, super experienced rider. He stepped across, he recently retired from Speedway, and is now experiencing his first season as a team manager. So let me introduce, beaming in from across the North Sea, none other than the biggest name in Speedway, literally more letters than anyone else. Good evening, Ulrich Ostergaard. How are you, sir?
Good evening, Derek. I'm very, very good now. Well, I am not really very, very good, but I feel good, except from my sickness a little bit, and an honor to be asked to do this, and yeah, I'm happy to be one of the first ones on your show this time, yeah.
Great to have you, Uli. So collectively, ladies and gentlemen, 360 Speedster viewers, these are our handlebar heroes for our debut podcast of 360 Speedway. Okay, next up, a timely disclaimer, because we are all here to share individual personal views on all and opinions on all things Speedway, or the topics at least that you out there set us week on week. We all have associations, historic or current, to Speedway clubs, and I just want to make the point that all of the views and opinions expressed in the broadcast of 360 Speedway are those of our own personal and not necessarily those of any clubs or associations that we have in the world of Speedway. Hope that makes sense. It's our views only, guys, right? If anyone wants to sue us, it's got to be us individually that gets sued. That's my point.
It's no problem.
Okay, let's move on. So, and thank you very much to everyone who has responded to several weeks' worth of bombardment on social media. 360 Speedway is across multiple social media platforms. We've done our best to try and grab your attention, and a good number of you, a healthy number of you, have responded and have given us a follow on Facebook and Twitter and what else, Instagram and TikTok. We're even on TikTok. So thank you very much for responding to that. And week on week, we're going to ask you to vote on what 4 typically discussion topics that you want us to tackle on the following week's episode of 360 Speedway. You guys have been voting this week, thank you very much, and we've landed on 4 subjects as voted for you. So in no particular order, we're going to dive into the very first of these of these topics. We're going to call them Fans Pulse, because literally we're going to talk about things that you, the fans, have got your pulse and your interest fixed to. And first up, we're going to talk about a new season and a big start. So here we are, gents. We're barely out of the month of April. In fact, we're only halfway through the month of April. And already we've enjoyed several weeks' worth of first-class, top-class Speedway entertainment. The weather has played ball for a change. We've had the Peter Craven Memorial at Bellevue with a big rider field. The Premiership clubs have dived straight into Knockout Cup and already Premiership League activity. And then the Championship, recently we've had a big bash weekend, a big opening weekend where we've already settled the Championship Pairs titles and the League Riders title. So quite a brisk and very fast and furious start to a season. And I just wonder, Guy, that if that's something compared to years in the past that you think has been a boon to British Speedway this year.
Just on that, Derek, I think that historically, the further you get into the season, I think it's more difficult with the weather. You know, the British summer, if you like, and I think the Conference League, the Premiership, the Championship, you know, to get as many meetings done early on in March, I think it's a good thing. It gets them a good start, and we all know the troubles we had last year and the year previous to that on weather. You know, instance, and for the first month, I've never seen as many individual meetings and pairs meetings. Usually, you wait until maybe July, August. Mm-hmm. But I do think to get them out of the way,
big change. Yeah, definitely. A big change to compare what they normally do with having all these individuals and all these meetings this time of season, where you normally wait a bit longer with that. But obviously, the weather is good. There's been plenty of speedway around, and it's good to see. It's always nice to get the adrenaline going and watch plenty of speedway.
I suppose the weather has played its part. It's allowed the fixture calendar to run like clockwork for a change. That's not always the case. But Robbo, to have some of those big national the trophies settled already in the championship, the pairs, the league riders. That's quite unusual for British Speedway, but it's done and dusted, and it allowed the championship in particular to burst into action big time this season.
It is. I think possibly part of the reason for that is at this time of year, riders are a lot more keen to ride and get meetings under their belt. Whereas if they have meetings like that towards the end of the year, then when league titles and stuff are coming up soon and whatever else, the riders aren't as keen to ride in them kind of meetings when they've got really important club meetings coming up. So I think it's probably a good idea to do that kind of thing so early on. Riders are more keen and spectators are more keen, fans are more keen, they want to come and watch, and especially meetings like that, it's great. They will enjoy that, and so will the riders. And
I think sometimes it's interesting. You guys have taken part in the sport, and it was a livelihood, I guess, to you to some extent. But from a spectator's perspective, so many times in the past, we all look forward and anticipate greatly a brand new season. Fresh optimism and reason to be confident and all that good stuff. And but in the past, quite often, even when the weather has played fair, teams have had a soft launch this season. So quite often there's been challenges or whatever it might be. But this year, much more than ever before that I can remember, it's been some real serious competition right from the start, and I think the crowds have responded to that.
Hopefully, and that's the main thing. As long as the crowd comes out, even the Scottish Derby was good to see, a big thriller. Edinburgh, Glasgow, to see that, and obviously Bournemouth to lift the championship trophy as well. Like Stuart just said, it's always nice to have these kind of important meetings when the fans want to watch Speedway, and there's so many meetings throughout the season anyway, so it's good to get them the important ones that are out of the way as well. And Bob can be championship rider champion for the rest of the season now, instead of only having it through the winter, really.
Yeah, and of course another big event that helped to kick off the season was the annual Ben Fund. So much organisation and planning goes into that particular meeting. It typically is always held at the start of the season, because naturally it allows some riders to test equipment and put their name forward to take part in that. So that event obviously was moved to Oxford this season, and we all know that the crowds at Oxford since their return, and that's a remarkable story in its own right, have been super impressive. And big kudos to Jamie and the team at Oxford for staging the Ben Fund this year. It was a cracking rider field, and it can only have done the coffers some good, thankfully.
I think when you look at I think when you look at some of the meetings that have held, Derek, including that one, some of the riders it's been attracting. I know Freddie Lindgren was over for Neil's, Christian Everson's testimonial. Usually you had a few of the riders that are obviously keen to come to the UK early, and I think that meeting, hats off to Tom Brennan, to get out in that field with those riders and to win that meeting, what a performance, an absolute stormer. And I think it's a sign of things from Tom Brennan to come this year. I think, like I say, having it that early on, it gives the guys a boost. You get to see a couple of riders possibly that we might not see in the UK, and I think it's encouraging. Because one thing that I think the last few years you've taken out maybe Saibutinov, Jason Doyle, and a few others. I think the UK's been starved of some really, really good, strong, European riders. And obviously we've got ridden for a few years, but you think of some of the riders that we used to have from Denmark, Sweden, and the UK misses all that. When I was racing, it was obviously Hans Nielsen, that was a little bit earlier, but some of the riders that were coming to this country would go only for those riders at that meeting, and to see the likes of Hans, or to see the likes of Nicky, Leon Madsen, even later on Niels, you look at these riders and you think, well, go and watch them, and to have them in March and racing in the country, and especially Oxford, and again hats off to Jamie Courtney and the team. Jamie's been phenomenal for Oxford, and obviously Beric as well, and it's guys like that we need to keep the sport alive, and as long as they can do that and attract these riders, then we're all happy.
And it's a good meeting as well. Like I said, me and Stuart both have had plenty of injuries throughout our careers as well, and the Ben Fund has been really supportive as well. So it's good to see they can attract the bigger names as well, especially at the start of the season, because they're doing a great job for the riders who's been injured for life or just been injured for a few months. So for me, it's nice to see a good field and a good crowd to get some money in for a really good cause. So it's nice to see.
As the guys have touched on.
Totally agree with that.
So on you go, Rob.
I totally agree with that there. What I was just saying. The Benevolent Fund is a great cause, and it does help a lot of riders out in a good way. It's great that they do have that meeting every year, and they're getting some really good riders into that meeting. So it's a very good cause for that. It's brilliant that the guys do this. The people who organise and everything. I don't even know if they get paid for doing everything towards that. All the back behind the scenes work, all the background work in running the Benevolent Fund. I think, as far as I'm aware, it's all voluntary. And the guys do that for free, and just to help riders out. Brilliant thing, very good.
Yeah, kudos to Colin Ackroyd, who's the current sort of custodian of all things Ben Fund, and so much effort and planning, as I say, goes into these things, and quite often the weather can determine quite how successful that event happens to be. But it's actually quite, I sometimes wonder why the Ben Fund or that as a concept is unique to the UK. Poland, for example, Sweden, Denmark. Unless I'm wrong, Uli, don't have anything that's the equivalent of a Ben Fund.
No, not at all. If you get injured in Denmark, you just have to take care of yourself, really. So to have that in your back of your mind as well, it's a massive thing. They even send you mail straight away when you had an injury, so you can inquire and get some help. So to get all these sponsors in to make sure they can pay for. There is a lot of injuries in Speedway, so they must pay out a lot of money as well. So I'm really happy to see when they get a lot of money in as well, and they do a great job.
I would appreciate your thoughts on. We're talking about how bright and successful, and how vigorous the start of the new season has been in both senior leagues in the UK, and one thing, and you guys have touched on it a little bit, but it's like changed times. Part of the overall excitement and part of the draw to have such healthy crowds in the early weeks of the season is because, of course, of the big name riders. There's lots of riders who haven't ridden in the UK for some time. For the past few seasons, we've had lots of Grand Prix riders. We've got Dan Bewley, Jason Doyle, the Holders are at Sheffield. Ty has been, is in at Sheffield, and some others whose name immediately escapes me. But it seems that British Speedway has, in some shape or form, in recent years, turned a corner, and back has come some of the best talent in the sport.
It's great that
like you said there, it was such a good place where all the good riders was in the past as well, and then we've had a long period where riders was having Poland or Sweden as a priority. So for me, it's I've always had the UK as my priority league anyway over everything else, because I loved the way the fans were in the UK. I loved the various tracks and all that. But I'm just happy to see, like you said, the riders like Svitolina, Doyle, Bewley, Brady, all these riders stick to the UK, give the UK fans so much to cheer on. And obviously when you have one or two, even 3 and 4 number ones on your team, just going to make it more exciting, and hopefully it will make sure all the British fans want to come out and support the clubs and support British Speedway, because it needs that. It's been downhill before, but it looks like it's on the rise again with the GP riders coming back into the UK, and they know how fun it is to ride in the UK. So for me, it's really, really cool to see, and I'm just happy to see it's going in the right direction.
100%. Okay, let's move on then. We want to keep the content moving along and fresh. Next up, Fan Pulse Lap 2 is voted for by you 360 Speedsters. You have voted, we have listened. I'm now going to discuss Cardiff No More is the Fan Pulse topic. So Cardiff, it was the decision to end the run, the 20-year or so run of back-to-back Grand Prix at Cardiff. I'm not sure it was totally unexpected, but whether that was or wasn't the case, I think it's fair to say, Guy, that it's caused some sincere disappointment within the Speedway fraternity in the UK.
It certainly has that, and I think part of the reason for that though is it's not just the meeting at Cardiff. It's the whole weekend. People went for the weekend, and it was it used to be the case that it was the pairs at Somerset on a Friday, and that you didn't go from there into Cardiff. You could have a few drinks wherever, go off the night, and then the next day there was a really good atmosphere. There was a real buzz about the place, and then you go to the track, you do the meeting, and again after the meeting you go out and have a few drinks with your friends, and then try and drive home on the Sunday if you were feeling up to it. It was the whole weekend. It wasn't just a case of going there for the meeting. I mean, the track at Cardiff could be a bit unpredictable. For the most part, it was pretty good. There was a couple of times it used to cut up a bit. So I think probably as far as the racing goes at Bellevue, it will probably produce better racing, but you're not going to have the full weekend atmosphere like you did at Cardiff. I just don't think you're going to get it there, unfortunately. But you should get better racing, and that's my opinion on that. I mean, I don't really know what the surrounding area of the Bellevue Stadium in Manchester is like. What I've seen of it, it's not really the most appealing. I don't know if you'd want to stay around the area. I'm not really been into the city centre there much, so I don't know what it's like there or how far it is from it. So I don't know how much of a chore that would be to get from, if you were staying in the city centre to the track and then back again. So, and especially them doing 2 days in a row, but yeah, I don't know if the atmosphere of the weekend will be the same, but I think the racing should be better, providing the weather plays ball.
I think that's a fair comment, Rob. Stuart, should we don't know? I know you can navigate your way around Manchester. We'll ask you to talk about that in a second. But I think it's the social side of Cardiff. I think that was the biggest draw card. Supporters didn't necessarily go there expecting wonderful Grand Prix racing, although they did get it from on more than one occasion, and the atmosphere was obviously electric because of the size of the crowd. It was the social aspect. Everything was so walkable in and around the stadium, right?
100%. Just to echo what Stuart said there. The weekend, that's what it was. It was the party atmosphere. Seeing all your friends that you've raced with over the years, fans from other clubs. And, see come Saturday night, 5:30, 6 o'clock, half the fans probably wouldn't be able to see the racing anyway, because there was usually that much alcohol involved. But you're right, Robbo. I mean, the weekend, the atmosphere, the Friday night, the pairs, you would get to Cardiff later. There'd be people in the streets at 1 and 2 in the morning drinking. And then the next day you had the fan zone, and the guys will echo this, Walkabout, which is probably the most famous speedway name in Cardiff, where all the fans and the riders used to go for a drink. And 100%, the atmosphere in the stadium itself was electric. Like Robbo says, it was a bit hit and miss with the track, but the atmosphere was electric, and the buzz and seeing all the fans, even the Sunday mornings. You got on the Sunday mornings, a few sore heads, but you were talking about meeting somebody in this pub or the fan zone and getting pictures taken, and obviously I know Manchester quite well, and it's not going to have the same atmosphere when it comes to that. 100% not. The stadium, obviously, it's a little bit out from the city centre, so you're not quite as close to the party zone, if you like, but I do think the racing will be top notch without doubt. The Bellevue track is it's another level. But I do think the fans will be missing that atmosphere, the weekend atmosphere, the party atmosphere, and obviously the famous walkabout.
Uli, your thoughts on Cardiff?
Yeah,
no more?
Well, I've only been to Cardiff a few times, but I must admit the 2 times I've been there, it's been fantastic. Meeting all riders you used to ride with, see the guys like D. Barker, Robin Norris, all these kind of people you haven't seen in years that's retired as well. So yeah, you've seen all the special jackets from all the various clubs from the UK. It was great to see, and I can only echo what the two other legends are saying as well, that the atmosphere there is brilliant, and you won't get the same at Manchester, but you won't get that in a lot of other ways as well. When you go to Boynes, you won't see people walk inside Boynes city centre as well to get drunk. It's more like an event near the track where you meet up outside the stadium and stuff like that. So I think Cardiff is a bit of a one-off thing, unless you may be in Poland. I've not been to a GP in Poland as well, but yeah, I think all the British fans is pretty unlucky with Cardiff being taken out. But again, they're trying something else. It's a great stadium at Bellevue, great racing, and I'm not even sure how many people they can have at the new stadium at Bellevue. But yeah, they might miss out of a few thousand people there as well when you consider you can have 30, 40, 50,000 at Cardiff.
Yeah, a brave decision though. Kudos to the management team at Bellevue though, right? Because they've put their hands up, and not only are they taking on a Grand Prix, they're taking on two within 24 hours, and that's very brave. And we can only hope that they get due reward in terms of two healthy crowds that weekend.
Just on that, Derek, I watched a bit of banter on the WhatsApp, with the cost of tickets. So I had a look, because I'm just down the road. So myself and the kids and the wife were looking at going, and to be fair, we looked maybe 10 days ago, 12 days ago, loads of tickets available, up to £150 per person, depending on where you want to sit. I checked this morning, and there was limited tickets left in one stand in each night. They're all sold out.
Wow.
I could not believe it. Honestly, they're all sold out. So there was only 2 stands each night with seats that were limited. So I think in the next couple of days you'll see a sold out Grand Prix for both nights. That's
good. That's great news, Stuart. I certainly hadn't picked up on that. So, some of the banter, some of the comments when the ticket prices were announced suggested that people considered it was overpriced. But what isn't overpriced? But we're talking about World Championship Speedway, the best riders on the planet,
exactly.
on a superb world class stage at Manchester. There's no doubt about that.
Sorry, Dick, just to enter it, when you said there, when you look at what it would cost you to go to a Champions League final, a World Cup final, this is the elite of the elite. These are the speed riders that you would get out. You would go and see them every day of the week. You don't get them in the UK. And Will talked about the prices being whatever they are, but look at the riders. Look at what you're getting. There's not one rider on that track that you wouldn't want to go and watch at another raceway. They're all.
It's going to be so exciting to see that Bellevue, because we've seen, over the last many years, we've seen so much good racing at Bellevue as well, because it's a big, fast track, and there's so many lines, and I'm sure all the Grand Prix riders like big, fast tracks as well. So in that case, there's no doubt it's going to be good. There might even come another Chris Palmer Harris as well to do what he did to Greg Hancock back in 2000 and whatever. Anyway, but that was a great final.
Yeah, 7.
Stuart Robson, from a rider's point of view, it's not lost on me that probably the happiest Grand Prix riders in the field must be Dan Bewley and Brady Kurtz, because not only are they going to have 2 Grand Prix on their home track in Manchester, but also one in Wrocław in Poland. That can't be too bad.
It's quite good. Worked out quite well for them, hasn't it? But it's not necessarily going to be any easier for them. They just happen to know the track a little bit better. Okay, they have possibly a slight advantage, but in a field like that, the riders develop and adapt to the tracks so fast. That's why they are world-class riders, because they can do that. And any one of them could win, really. But yeah, it's great for them. They will have massive home support from obviously all the local fans that go, and it gives you a boost when that is the case. It helps a lot.
Yeah, that's a good point. So generally, if you were to get a way up, Cardiff is no longer on the Speedway calendar in the UK. Manchester appears to be its successor, 1 GP or 2, as the case is this season. is it an opportunity? You know, Cardiff, you know, will have its place in the history books forever, but life moves on, Speedway moves on. On to Manchester. Is that an opportunity to develop the sport and perhaps bring it to a new audience?
Well, I think something that Ulrich said earlier on was one of the experiences about Cardiff that we'll never forget was the Chris Harris Greg Hancock race. And I think when you've had a British winner over the last 20 odd years, that's the big point that everybody remembers. Bellevue is without doubt, to me, one of the best racetracks in the planet. It really is. And I think bringing the Grand Prix to Bellevue, hopefully it'll attract more people, obviously up north as they call it. But I do think there'll still, if you look at the ticket sales, Derek, they're almost gone. So it tells you there's going to be a big audience there. And I don't know if they're going to put a fan zone on or maybe something on, maybe outside of it, I don't know. But I think reaching out to the north of the UK for the Grand Prix is a great thing. I think it'll be good for the economy, good for the area. And listen, it's a big loss, Cardiff, no doubt about it. But there's going to be a lot of people that stay close to Manchester that will have a 20-minute, half an hour, an hour's drive instead of 6, 7, 8 hours, you know. And you know what it was like in Cardiff? It was £1,000 a night for a hotel, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
It was. Yeah. That was it, you know. And £12 a pint. So.
And it's definitely a different atmosphere as well. You know, when you have it inside the stadium, it's gonna. The atmosphere, the sound, the smell is completely different in an inside stadium compared to, I say, a normal outside stadium as well. So obviously that's going to be a bit more normal, but in some ways I did like the idea of the inside one because the noise was mental. You know, it was completely different atmosphere inside the stadium as well. So whether they're gonna be a few people thinking, at least we know it's gonna be on because there's a roof over. The sound, the smell, something is different. But, you know, I'm happy to see it's almost sold out. You know, that's the main thing. You know, we need the fans out as well. And it's, that's the main thing. So whether some people are probably going to think it's the best thing in the world and other people going to think I'm not going to go there because, you know, I want what I like to Cardiff as well. So there will still be ifs and buts.
Ifs and buts and maybes. Okay, let's move on, guys. Thank you very much for running the rule over Cardiff no more. I dare say the Grand Prix series itself starts in a couple of weeks' time. There's 3 Grand Prix in the month of May, so I'm sure in the coming weeks we'll pick over some of the prospects in this year's Grand Prix series. 360 Speedsters, we are shiny and new as well, you know. We're super keen to encourage as many Speedway supporters out there to try and take in some of our social media output and certainly to take in our weekly podcast output. Please, can we ask you to act as good citizens and agents of 360 Speedway? Please generally just like, comment and share any social media posts that you see published by 360 Speedway. Please encourage your Speedway family, your friends, your neighbours, and any Speedway communities that you happen to be associated to follow us. They can choose their preferred social media platform. Give us a follow, please. And lastly, for now on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. It is free, it doesn't cost whatsoever, and it just keeps you alerted to new content being published on YouTube. And thank you so much. And please hit the thumbs up on YouTube as well. It all helps the algorithm, whatever that means. It all helps the algorithm. Okay, let's move on, guys. I'm actually going to just before we have a look at some upcoming fixtures over the next week. I thought that 360 Speedway ought to jump on the latest bandwagon, which is, and this is all to do with, I don't know if you've seen on social media, everyone, that people are creating, I'm going to call them dolls, right? The little action figures, right? So I thought I would have a little tinker around, and as extra reward for you guys stepping in or for this first ever episode of 360 Speedway, I thought I'd create a little doll to commemorate your appearance here. So in no particular order, Stuart Robson, what do you think of this guy?
That's Kelly Moran.
I'm not sure the body proportion's quite right, Stuart, but
I love the shades.
there you are, Robbo. Speedway legend. I can see your England flags in there, the 360 Speedway logo. You're in a Newcastle Diamonds race suit as well.
Brilliant.
I'll send that one to you, Robbo. Next up, Scotland's finest. Stuart, I've got to say...
What the... Who's that? Who's that? Have you been... Do you know that?
Stuart,
I like that.
Stuart, all I can say, Stuart, is I did upload a photograph of you, and that's what GPT came up with.
That looks like...
Chucky. It looks like Chucky.
No, that's a compliment. That looks like... He actually... Is he no Swedish? It looks like a Swedish rider. Anyway, thanks for that, Derek. I like the surroundings. I like the big man.
I'll send you that. I'll send you that on, Stuart.
Better looking, less grey.
And finally, Mr. Uli, I know you're feeling a little bit under the weather. I hope this will make you chuckle at least. There's an Uli doll.
Brilliant.
Hey, what do you think of that?
Brilliant.
Let me see that again. I didn't see.
That's actually quite good, to be fair. That's actually closer to Uli than us.
I can't even see it.
I'll send you on, Uli, and you can.
There we go.
That's
all right.
You can impress your children later, Uli. Yeah.
I like that, Derek. I like that.
They will love that. Julio.
Okay, let's have a little look. Now, I must admit, even I can't read this perfectly, but this is the fixtures over the Easter weekend and into next week. And I was going to ask you to pick out any fixture that catches your eye. So let me read out some to help you a little bit.
Oxford and Poole. I've done it, Derek. Look.
Oxford and Poole, Friday night.
Well, listen.
So Stuart, you picked out, that's the BFN series, right? So earlier this week, Oxford and Poole drew at Cowley, and Poole won a golden heat. Yeah.
Mm.
So what are you thinking, Stuart? You thinking Poole are going to do Oxford on Friday night, or are Oxford going to get revenge?
No, I think Poole will do Oxford.
Poole is strong at home.
It's at Oxford, wasn't it? So.
No, Friday will be at Poole.
It will be at Poole.
Sorry. Apologies. I just think Poole's going to be too strong. I do. I think looking on paper at some of the teams this year, I don't know whether it is with Poole. Poole's a bit like the Real Madrid of football. They seem to always get there at the end of the year, don't they? They always seem to get that.
Yeah, they do.
Push to get them.
And then Glasgow is Barcelona, isn't it then?
Yeah. Well,
I actually think the meeting tomorrow should be good. I think, Glasgow Berwick derby, see Keelerman back in the UK. You're going to see Craig Cook back for Berwick, right on his former track at Glasgow. We all know what he can do. Plenty of good meetings to look forward to.
Yeah, we've got Glasgow Berwick home and away, Edinburgh Workington home and away, Plymouth, Oxford, Bellevue, Birmingham on Monday. In fact, there's a flurry of bank holiday or Easter Monday fixtures. Bellevue, Birmingham home and away, Oxford, Leicester home and away. Two meetings within the same day, guys. Can you remember those? Can you remember those days?
Yeah.
Oh, aye. Yep.
Oh yeah.
I remember one.
Good days. Good days.
One Monday we rode at Exeter with Wolverhampton at 11 o'clock, and then we were at Wolverhampton.
Sounds horrible, mate.
Honestly, mate, it was unbelievable. Straight back up to Wolverhampton, and I remember because I had to pick PK up on the way down to Exeter because he just came back from Sweden, and he had to take him back. Oh, honestly. Don't get me wrong, it was great. It was a good payday. But Exeter to Wolverhampton.
It's hard work as well. It's hard work.
Aye.
I've done the Peterborough new ones a few times. I've done Peterborough Rye House a few times. I've done Peterborough Ipswich as well. It is some bloody hot days, but so many fans, so many good racing as well. So I must admit, my favourite days were the bank holiday ones with these two meetings. To the other one, so definitely something to look forward to for all fans and riders as well.
I don't know if you remember, Derek, but we used to have the floors, remember, at Glasgow on Sunday,
yes.
Down to Newcastle for the night.
Yes,
remember?
Yeah, I remember.
And I remember taking part in a few of them, and it was a buzz. It was great because the fans would be on the road with you. it was just a buzz. You know, the bikes got a holiday wash, a couple of Tesco bags over the clutch, over the carburettor. Shh, that was it. But away we go again. And it was actually Brett Saunders that taught me that, believe it or not. Brett Saunders, you'll not remember him, Willie.
No, never heard about it.
Australian rider, what a guy, but he used to call it the holiday wash. My first ever, I was 16, we went down south and he jet washed the bike with a plastic bag over the clutch and the throttle and the carburettor and the air filter.
Yeah.
Just half an hour, that's it, done.
Okay, well, on social media, we have made a point of encouraging you to get interactive with us. So we are looking for you to comment and share your views on all the discussion subjects that we're going to pick up on 360 Speedway. And to that end, I have managed to receive some comments, some text message, well, not text message, some text form messages through Facebook Messenger or Facebook chat, and on WhatsApp. You'll see circulating the screen, you'll see a telephone number which you can use to WhatsApp 360 Speedway. You can share your comments or leave a voice note of 30 or 40 seconds, and week to week we'll do our best to showcase and publish as many comments, text form and or voice note form as we can. So I just want to read out a couple of messages that we've had. So thank you very much to Dean in Sheffield, who comments, absolutely gutted, as we all are, that Ty has been injured. The Tigers of the Sheffield variety have started strongly, but under real pressure to compensate long term. It will be interesting, you know, obviously it's only been a short period of time since Ty suffered those horrendous injuries, but it will be interesting to see what Sheffield management team do in terms of planning cover for Ty. To be confirmed shortly, but good luck to the Tigers. You have started your season very strongly indeed. Rachel from Ipswich, another supporter who will be happy with life in the Premiership. I'm loving how strongly my witches have started the new season, haven't they just? Would love to believe that we will avoid last year's injury crisis and lift silverware. Well, that's got to be the dream of Chris Louis and Richie Hawkins and all Witchy supporters around the UK. By crikey, the Witches have started the season strongly. And last season it was absolutely injuries that tripped you guys up at the end. But already the Witches looking pretty strong. Neil S from Manchester writes, there's no way, says Neil, there is no way that the Aces will give up the league title this year. We have the best 1 to 7 and can't see anyone getting the better of us over the season. Well, that was certainly the case last year. A memorable Premiership final with Leicester, and Bellevue managed to do the job to lift that trophy for the second time in a handful of years. Listen, 1 to 7, the Aces look as strong as anyone. They haven't started the season maybe quite as strongly and as confidently as Neil S and other Aces fans might have wanted, but I appreciate. I like the confidence, Neil S. Dan from Greater Teesside, I didn't know that was a thing. Greater Teesside, proud that the Bears, the Redcar Bears, of course, have already taken the pairs. We look strong and can see us easing into the playoffs. Then anything can happen. Well, that's absolutely the ambition. That's absolutely the objective for all clubs in the Championship and the Premiership. You'll do enough in the league campaign to squeeze your way into those end of season playoffs, and anything can happen. I've got to say the Bears do start amongst the pre-season favourites in the Championship and look particularly strong at the top end. Manda from Brum. This has got to be Birmingham, right? I still think the Brummies will get better and pick up plenty of wins this season. We are much better than 2024. Listen, as someone who used to live in Birmingham as an infant child many decades ago, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Birmingham. Yes, they were put through the ringer last year in terms of results. The season this year didn't start overly encouragingly with that home defeat to Oxford, but there's already been signs. You're right, man. I've already seen signs that some of the Birmingham riders, it's a much changed Birmingham side, might have a bit more about them this season. So dark horses, I would suggest, I like your confidence, Manda. What else have we got? Richard C from Devon, up the Gladiators. We have a real spearhead this year, much like with Bjarne Pedersen, of course, a couple of seasons back. Ben Barkett is on a false average, I would tend to agree. And Lasse, Mitch and Ben T will be better than some things. So Lasse, Fredriksson, Mitchell, Clough and young Ben Trigger. Yeah, I would tend to agree. Lasse Fredriksson had a solid couple of seasons with Edinburgh. He knows his way around the UK tracks in the Championship. And Mitch Clough, I've spoken to the lad. He's a nice lad. He certainly has got some talent. I've seen him ride out in Poland. There's something about him. We'll look forward to seeing how he develops in the UK. And Ben Trigger, who seems to have been around forever but hasn't, will get better and better. And I'm a bit of a Ben Barker fan, actually, so I'm sure Ben will put in a good shift for the Gladiators this season. Who else have we got? Tom E from Oxford. Love Oxford Speedway and all three teams who look capable of strong seasons. It's magic having magic and masterful having masters. I see what you did there, Tom E. Wait until Scotty returns. Well, that is an unsubstantiated rumour that Scott Nicholls, once declared fit, might find himself in some shape or form back in at Oxford, but obviously we're not even into May yet, so let's see what happens, whether that proves to be the case or not. But someone hopefully is going to benefit from the track return of Scotty Nicholls. And the last comment for just now, Jackie O from Northamptonshire. Jackie O writes, I'm from Hull originally and would love to see a return of the Vikings. Paul Thorpe and Gary Stead were my absolute faves. I'm old enough to have seen both of them as well, Jackie O. Listen, I'm quite impressed that I've detected there's still a lot of passion and a lot of desire to bring the Vikings back to being again at some point, and fingers crossed that can happen in future. Some happy memories, Jackie O, of the Hull Vikings. So please, folks, this could be, I can read out a message from you next week, or play out on air a voice note submitted through WhatsApp. Okay, right, back to your discussion topics. We're now entering Fan Pulse Lap 3. Let's dive into Safety Spotlight. And it's not a subject that I particularly wanted to raise on our opening episode of 360 Speedway. However, our viewers insisted that we do rightly speak about this. So the season has only just started. We've talked about how positively the season has started in the UK. But let's acknowledge those dreadful, and they are dreadful, injuries suffered by 3-time world champion Ty Woffinden. And delighted in the past week to have seen some hugely encouraging video footage from the hospital in Poland, and Ty, post-operative, back up on his feet, aided, yes, using a walking stick, etc., but highly encouraging given what that poor lad has been through in recent weeks. And unfortunately, guys, it has led to a focus once again on track safety of the sport, not just in the UK, but across the globe again.
I think obviously first and foremost, I think congratulations to Ty, for what he's done coming through that. Obviously it was a terrible accident, but I think when you look at the videos that's been posted on Facebook, social medias, he's come through a lot, he really has. And I think obviously this accident has created a bit of a focus on the safety. I noticed there was a bit of an inspection on the track in Poland right after the accident. I know there was some question marks regarding the safety of it, but I think they were all quite easily cleared. I think the sport, since I've been racing, obviously has come on massively with air fences. I think Stuart will remember early as well, when we never had air fences and you'd be riding around Exeter, you would be scared to hit the fence at Exeter.
Yeah.
Some of the tracks that we used to race at, they were terrible. You look at the fences were maybe 6 foot high, but 5 foot of that was solid ground. So you hit them, and there was no, you just bounced off them, or you just broke everything. And I think that the current safety aspect is always going to be there, 100%. But I do think that the sport, as it is at the moment, it's at its highest level of competitiveness, and unfortunately, these accidents are going to happen from time to time.
let's be honest, Uli and Robbo, Speedway is a dangerous sport. All forms of motorsport are. We can never make it entirely safe, but to Big Mac's point, it's come a long way in the last couple of decades in terms of mandatory air fences everywhere.
It certainly has. I mean,
you can take,
with the problem with the air fences now is, I think this is possibly part of the problem with Ty's injury. The bikes go in first, and the bike lifts the fence, and then you slide under the fence and hit what's behind it. I know it happened to Chris Holder at Coventry a couple of years back as well, and he broke his leg really badly, actually. And the bike lifts the fence, you go under it, and then you hit the thing, and then the fence traps you on top. It's the things weigh a ton. That's the sort of problem with the air fences. They're a great thing, and I think it was Brigo that came up with the initial idea, and brilliant idea, because they have saved a lot of injuries as well. It's like just running into a bouncy castle when you hit them correctly. Just unfortunately, they do lift them, so there needs to be a better solution to them staying fixed to the ground. What that is, I don't know. I mean, there are ideas floating around. I think Steve Brandon put literally a sketch. It was just off the top of his head, and he sort of basically the defence was sat in a trench. They dug a hole, sit the fence in the hole, so the bike can't go under it to lift it. Yeah, that would work to an extent, but the fence would need making whatever depth of hole you dug. The fence would need making that much higher, because you would lose the height off the top of it. So there are solutions around that. You could possibly, you could get like a sandbag or type thing, what will hold the weight down, which is put in a trench and it's stuck together with a Velcro they use to keep the panels together. Maybe something along the lines of that. Or the other problem with if doing the way Steve said it, which the idea is something to work on. If there's water on the track, the water is going to lift the air fence up, isn't it? If it gets in that channel, it's going to lift it, and it might sort of float, so to speak. But that's something to consider. There are other options. I'm sure someone will come up with something, but that's part of the problem with the air fences right now. But certainly over the last 15, 20 years, whatever it's been, they've been a game changer. They have. I had a crash at Mildenhall when in 2007, when air fences were mandatory in the sort of elite league, but they weren't in the Premier League. And I was at Premier League then. It wasn't such a big crash. I literally just sort of picked up as I went into the first bend, and I hit the fence on the back wheel. And I didn't roll around or anything. I stayed on the bike. If I'd been hit an air fence, I possibly still would have got injured, but it wouldn't have been to the extent that I was injured. Not quite as bad as Ty, but I did have some pretty bad injuries. And luckily, I managed to get away with it without any kind of operations on me personally. But with the lifting of the air fences with the bike, it is a problem, and it's something that needs addressing, I think, really.
Uli, what's your perspective on air fences and the introduction of them?
Stuart is completely right. That all the bad ones seems to be when the air fence is lifting, when the bike comes in first and then lifted up. I tried that at Coventry. Me and Bomo got tangled up and I broke my leg doing exactly the same thing. But the Speedway, there's always going to be a risk, no matter what they do with their fence, no matter what they're going to do with the shoots, and even Bomo's life vest jacket he had underneath his suit as well. Won't stop you from hurting yourselves, will it? So there always will be some things, but air fence was definitely one of the good ones. It made it a lot more safe for the rest of us as well. But what they can really do, it's always hard what to say, because we're gonna crash anyway. We're gonna break some bones no matter what we do. But if someone has a good idea, I think it will be worth looking into.
I'm no engineer. I'm many things, but I'm certainly not an engineer. It did occur to me though, to try and prevent air fences from lifting, as you described earlier, Stuart. Could the base, could the lower section be water filled? Could that potentially because it'd be very difficult to pin the air fence to the track somehow. But I just wondered whether if the lower section was water filled, well, it would lend itself to absorbing the impact in the same way that air would. Yeah.
Because some tracks will need to get air fences off after the meeting, but they use tracks for other things as well. Yeah. But they need to make sure they can, put it down towards the ground so it won't lift up in some ways. But exactly how they can do it and how they should do it is must be some people looking into that. That's for sure.
What's your thoughts, guys, on it's been a long time now that nylon Kevlar material race suits have been used by riders. They're lighter. I guess you have more movement in them than the olden days when it was thicker, proper leather form protection. Stuart McDonald, you in fact all of you will have been old enough to have worn the pre Kevlar race suit types. Is that something that should be considered to come back into the sport again?
I think possibly. I think nowadays, Derek, the way that the sport is, how competitive it is, at the top level, it's all down to the weight of the guys. It's the weight of the guys, how light they can get. I watched a video with Ty Woffinden last year, and he was talking about removing some bits of his boot, the heel in his boot, because it's got maybe a couple of pounds of weight, and that was giving them an advantage. You can imagine the difference in weight. I mean, you used to set a set of leathers up, you'll remember, Rob O'Woolley, and you could hardly lift them up. You jet washed them and they were soaking, they were heavy, like 17 stone. You get a set of Kevlars and you think, oh my God, I've got, you've got like your dressing gown on, your pyjamas. I think it would definitely help with injuries, but I think when you actually look at what the benefit from leather was more the sort of running along the ground, scratching your backside, elbows. I think that was more beneficial that way. I don't think from a safety aspect to stop us breaking bones, it wasn't. I don't think they would make a difference that way. I think now, I mean, you guys have obviously been racing more recently, but you think of the neck braces, the back, that kind of thing. I think that's now the way most riders are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. That's the way I went. I once I got out of leathers, it was such a relief to get into Kevlars. It was like you say, it was like wearing your pajamas. So I wore, because with leathers you didn't really wear much protection underneath. You wore your back protector, and that was pretty much it. So I had knee braces, I had elbow pad, I had shoulder pad, chest pads, everything, and I went that way along that way down the line rather than keeping the leather, because it was so much easier to move, and I was about half the weight I was with the leathers on. So, like you said, Stu, you could hardly just pick the things up, could you? After you cleaned them, the things weighed a ton. Especially back in our early day, there was a different type of leather then. It was like thick stuff. And now, if you were going to use leather, it would probably be a lot thinner and a lot lighter weight. But it was, like you said, it was more to prevent the removal of skin from your backside and your elbows, like you said. I know the Kevlar doesn't really take much to get through, but it's easier to repair as well. I used to send my stuff back to Selwyn. It's stick a patch across the arse or across the knee or wherever it might be, and off you go again. It was brilliant. It was so much easier to repair, and you could get a couple of sets. And I think it's definitely. I don't think leather would be the way to go, because I don't think people would take to it, because, like you said, it's all for weight. Yeah. It's all about weight, and the top guys, they weigh 50, 60 kilo tops. Yeah. And there's nothing to them, and that's the way they would do it. They're shaving off a couple of ounces here and there off different parts of the bike, and like you just said, shaving off the heel of the boot. I didn't know about that one. It's something new to me, that. And just anything to save weight. But I don't know how much protection the top guys wear underneath. Again, for the weight saving aspect.
Just what you said there, Stuart, about the back protector. All I ever had was a foam back protector, and it was literally that, like that, and that was it. I never had a neck brace, I never had elbow pads, knee pads, and even some matches you'd forget to put your suit, you'd forget the back protector, and you'd race with it. without it. You would get in race with it because it was what you did. You know, you went out without that. You went out without goggles sometimes, and that was just the way it was. But now, you know, looking at some of the outfits the guys have got now, they look like Terminator.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? It's like the neck. But again, the sport's moved on. You know, the bikes are sharper, faster. But I just think that like echoing what Robbo says as well, I don't think they benefit that much from the leathers, and the cost as well. I think now, back then, would be a lot more as well. I mean, obviously we know prices went up, but you look at a set of Kevlars and a set of leathers, and I think the leathers would be cost-wise as well. I'm just
thinking, Stuart, listening to you, it's all relative, right? You're comparing your experience in your era versus the modern day rider, right? And some of the innovations that modern riders have, but you go the other direction. Go back to you've seen some photographs from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. Yeah. Look at some of the crash helmets that those guys wore. Yeah. Monkey mask, all that stuff. You know, it's great to look at in the photographs, but you know, in terms of health and safety, then even compared to when you were riding, was night and day, really, wasn't it?
I remember when we went to the beach, we went to the beach down at Irvine, and we took a few of the Australian riders when they just came over. There was Mick Powell, Shane Bowes, I think Brian Nixon was there, and these guys had shorts and t-shirt on, no trainers. They jumped in my two bikes and went out and raced each other without helmets, without boots, without anything on, and it was like so natural. I was 16. I'm watching these guys on the beach with no helmets, no footwear, nothing, just shorts and t-shirt, doing really, and it was like, wow. I mean, that's just, you couldn't do that now. Honestly, Rob, that's what it was like. They were on the beach doing wheelies and everything with no helmet, nothing, and I'm like, you know how easy it is on the beach, but it's how different it is now. I mean, if you went near a beach now, you would get shot by the local authorities. Yeah. But that's what you did then. You went on the beach, you met some friends, you know, you raced a few horses, you know, chased a few horses off, but it was just, back then, the difference then was night and day now, you know.
Listen, ultimately, we can't stand in the way of progress, and, you know, inevitably there'll be some new innovations will creep into Speedway. I think, and we've touched on it already, for me, certainly the biggest issue in the current day is the lifting of the air fences. I think, you know, there'll be better brains than mine working on what the solution might be to that. But listen, we send obviously our best wishes to Ty. I don't for one second flatter myself in thinking that Ty will watch this episode. But if you do, Ty, I just want to draw your attention to a little mascot in the background, a little robot mascot, which up until this week I had labelled as 36T, but I've actually changed it to 36Ty. So the 360 Speedway mascot, named after you, Ty Woffinden. Get yourself well, champion, and we look forward to seeing you back on your feet unaided.
Good luck, Ty. You'll get through this, pal.
Definitely, mate. Definitely.
Okay, listen, we're on to the last lap. Fan Pulse lap 4 on this opening episode of 360 Speedway. And one thing that I did notice when I've been over the last few weeks trying to draw people's attention to what we're going to do and get them to join us and join in and become interactive, what I did notice, we have a fans poll where I asked all of the followers on Facebook to tell us which club that they support, and from time to time I'm going to publish that on social media. We did publish it a couple of weeks ago, but one surprising to me at least, one of the top categories of supporter were Speedway fans who no longer have a hometown club. Their club has sadly folded. Hopefully temporarily, hopefully short term, but it occurred to me that there's an awful lot of clubs, you know. So in recent times we've lost Wolverhampton, Peterborough, Newcastle, Arena Essex, Coventry, Swindon and Somerset to name but some. And it's fascinating to me though that some of these, Wolverhampton in particular, Stuart, and you'll know this firsthand, was a real hotbed for Speedway. The market is still there for the Wolves to come back, right?
100%. You know, I'm friends with a lot of people on Facebook. I went to the last evening about a year and a half ago, and it was heartbreaking. You know, Wolverhampton's been one of the biggest clubs in the world for, I don't know, 50, 60 years, and you know, you look at what Chris Van Straten, Peter Adams have done for the club over the years, and I mean, they've just been phenomenal. And it was just so sad to see what happened to the club. You know, I mean, I know that businesses need to survive, but I think when you look at the history of the club and what it's brought to the black country, if you like, that Dave Harry's obviously been on it as well, and I hope that the guys get the sport back in that sort of area, because the following in Wolverhampton was just unbelievable. You know, and obviously I had a great year there, some great experiences, some great friends, and it's just sad to see. You know, I mean, I think Stuart's probably going to have the biggest heartbreak, because I think most of the clubs that have shot were his ex-clubs. I know we only said Peterborough, but Wolverhampton, you know, it's unheard of, some of the Wolverhampton shutting, but you look to prior to Wolverhampton shutting, and Cradley Heath was another big one. You know, it was another massive club, and it shut, and unfortunately hasn't really resurrected. But listen, if anybody's going to bring Wolverhampton back again, it'll be the Van Strattens and the Adams. It will be.
Here.
They're very determined to get it back, and they've got the backing of everybody in Wolverhampton and all the ex-riders as well. And listen, fingers crossed. I just hope it does come back for the fans, because the Wolverhampton fans were just phenomenal. Honestly, every one of them. I still get messages now, Derek. Honestly, on my kids' Facebook, just honestly, they're just great family, and heartbreaking. You know, I took my kids there when the last evening, and they were blown away by it, and all the riders. You know, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah, Wolves fans, I know there are some of you already picking up the output from 360 Speedway. Please keep across our socials. Please contribute. Your opinion, your views on all things Speedway is as valid as anyone else. And best wishes to Chris and all involved in bringing the Wolves back to track. Stuart Robson, Mr. McDonald has mentioned, you know, that's almost accidental. I'm not sure, Stuart, but a lot of those clubs that I rhymed off a couple of minutes ago are former clubs of yours. You know, Rye House is one that I don't think I even mentioned, but you know, Arena Essex, Coventry, to name but three. And happy memories for you, I'm quite sure. And how nice would it be for even a couple of those clubs to be resurrected, Stuart?
It would be great. And I like what you just said with Wolverhampton. There is a consortium of people at Coventry trying to do the same thing, and they have been for years. You know, they've really fought against the development of the land there, because it's prime land there to build houses. I think it's something like 25 acres or 20 acres, wherever it is. They can get quite a lot of houses on there. But then now they seem to have the backing of Rugby Borough Council, and there's been some small steps made, but they've stopped the development, which is one of the main things. And it has to be used as a sports ground, basically, I think, is the outcome. And they're just trying to get the right, I don't see a team of people. I don't really know what they're trying to get, the right plans put together, maybe. I'm not really sure what stage they're at, to look and present something to Rugby Borough Council to give them what they will consider the right sort of plans, funding, whatever else they need to say, right, yeah, let's go ahead and do something about this now. And take the site's still there, the stadium's still there, although in very ruined.
Yeah,
it's been on fire quite a lot, but it's all still there. It could be resurrected. It would probably, to be resurrected, it would probably have to be demolished initially, I would have thought, and then rebuilt. But if there's people willing to put the money in, the time, the effort, then it could happen. You know, and I hope it does. Along with Wolverhampton, Wolverhampton was one of my favourite tracks. I loved the place. I used to love going there as an away rider. I used to look forward to going there as much as anywhere else, and it was great. And like Stu says, they had great people up there. There always there used to be some great banter between Coventry and Wolverhampton. And the rivalry was good, but it was friendly. It was all friendly, and it was good banter. So it would be great to see at least one of them two clubs, if not both of them. You know, as far as the other clubs I've ridden for, Newcastle have gone, Hull are gone, Arena's gone, Arena Essex or Lakeside, and Rye House. They were all tracks in clubs I loved being part of, every one of them. And I've had quite a few seasons with Newcastle. It's pretty much near enough as many as I did with Coventry, I think. And that was really sad to see that go. And I think I had three seasons or so with Lakeside, 2 or 3, I can't remember now. and it's about the same with Rye House. But all brilliant, great fans. I met some great people down there, and miss them really. We used to the social afterwards, after the meeting. We used to go and have a beer in the bar, meeting up with fans. It tends to be the same people each week, but it was great. I used to love seeing them, and it would be great to see any one of them back, if not more.
Uli, let's bring you in on this. You, for very obvious reasons, are associated strongly with all things Peterborough Panthers, and a quick preview next week's 360 Speedway episode. Cal Johnson, another man associated with Peterborough, is going to join us.
Never heard about him. Yeah, no, exactly. Carl is actually one of the front people in, try save the Panthers, to try find a new place where they can have a new stadium. There's a lot of good people around in Peterborough who's trying to, like Stuart said, they do Coventry as well. They're trying Wolverhampton to try reopen before it's too late. We were pretty lucky to see Oxford come back. Workington came back as well. Old Bellevue Stadium got into a new one. So there is hopes. There is chances that it can happen. There's definitely a lot of people behind some of the places that have so much, passionate feelings about the places that it can happen. And I think it's been really sad to see all the great clubs have been riding at us, and home rider and on away rider like Somerset, Newport, Newcastle. There's just so many places where when I came to the UK in 2003 and 4, that's a lot of them are just gone, and it's sad to see, because we all want to see British Speedway develop. It's a great country, and I try to tell all the Danish young riders, try to get yourself to the UK. The tracks are good, fans are brilliant. A lot of my best friends are in the UK, it's sad to see when they're closing, and I'll try to help as much as I can to try open some of them again, and see how it can go forward.
I think it's quite encouraging actually, because some of the clubs that we've touched about, Coventry, Peterborough, Wolverhampton in particular, to name but 3, and there's some others as well. They haven't gone away. Just some of those clubs, haven't hosted Speedway for quite a few seasons, but there's still interest in those localities. There's still quite a healthy presence on social media. That if you look for that, Hull Vikings, Hull is another club. Hull hasn't played Speedway in a long time, but by crikey, there's a hotbed and quite a community that are still super interested in reviving Speedway in Humberside. And even if a couple of these clubs in the next handful of years came back into being, and how transformative would that be to British Speedway to get 2 or 3 of these clubs back again?
You will need some local derbies there. That's what it's all about, isn't it? So you need the Rye House Peterborough, the Ipswich Peterborough. Peterborough is pretty local as well. I know that. So there's a lot of clubs next to that. But you have Oxford, Swindon. You had the Plymouth, Somerset, Exeter kind of connection as well. Down the south coast with the Eagles, Poole. Weymouth, I think it was called as well. So you need some of the clubs to try to get back, to get the local derbies. I love the Scottish ones when I was in Glasgow. I love the Peterborough when the Rye House fans came over, or the Ipswich fans came over. It gives the Speedway an atmosphere when the away fans can travel with the local derbies. So, we all would love to see that again. And, that's what we need to get done.
Stuart Robson, Stuart McDonald, I think we've got something like 15 or 16 senior clubs.
There's a few riders back then that you think, wow, and again, it was the amount of competition that was about then. It would just be great, it'd be great to see Newcastle back in the fours, the Northern fours, and, Hull, Rye House. Look at Eastbourne, you look at some of the clubs over the years and you think, we need them back.
Yeah.
We need to get that Speedway buzz, because we're starting to get the Grand Prix riders back. We're starting to get some of the riders back that we had, pre-COVID. So there's no reason why not. We keep positive, keep pushing, and hope that we can get another 3 or 4 clubs. Swindon as well is another one. Terry Russell, Ronnie Russell. So you know, we keep our fingers crossed that some of these clubs will pop back up, but I think they're restricted a little bit with government rules as well, and I just hope that the red tape disappears and we can get a few more clubs back.
It's not easy, certainly not easy. Robbo, I'll leave a last word for you on former clubs.
Well, yeah, I sort of echo what you just been saying there, really. It would be great to see some of them back. And the local derbies, what the guys have been saying about, they were brilliant, you know, the double-headed things. And it would be nice if we could bring some of them back, like the guys are saying there. The riders are coming back. So it's the government red tape and stuff, that's the problem. Insurances and things like that, they're a nightmare these days. And the costs of everything is just horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But yeah, there are a lot of teams of people fighting in the background to bring clubs back.
Yeah.
And you know, let's just hope there's some success somewhere along the line with at least one, if not a few of them.
Yeah, listen, as we've touched on already, there's lots of super positive, super capable, super determined people out there at different locations throughout the UK, and you know, let's talk the sport up. We've mentioned already that the season has started very, very brightly, very positively here in the UK, and fingers crossed that the good news keeps coming, and some of these clubs will manifest themselves once again in the British Speedway leagues. Listen, guys, that will do us in terms of our that completes all our fans pulse laps 1 to 4 for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it, guys watching. I hope you've enjoyed this first episode. I have seen a few glitches. Some of the names have swapped around from their original positions earlier on tonight. We'll try and sort some of that. We will get better. We will get a bit more confident, or I will at least, and we'll make some improvements week on week. Meantime, all we can ask you to do, please, like I said earlier, please remain interactive. Please support us. Like this YouTube episode 1 on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Like and comment and share all the social media output. And as you'll notice all night long, around the screen there has been our social media accounts. There's even an 0333 number. There's a WhatsApp number. And what we're looking for you to do, please, if you feel you would like to do it, send us a voice note, and we'll look to play out some voice notes and in future weeks. Didn't have much time to promote that before this first episode, but now you know, you can WhatsApp us and leave us a voice note. 30 or 40 seconds would be plenty, and we'll pick out some of the best ones and play them out in future episodes. Guys, final word to you. I hope that's been a bit of a relief. Episode 1 in the under the belts, and thank you very much, especially you, Uli, for coming out of your sick bed. I hope you've enjoyed it, guys.
It's been great, Derek. Thanks for doing this. It's good to see some positivity in Speedway, so thanks a lot again.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. Happy Easter to all.
Have a good week, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.